So welcome to this beautiful Friday. And today we're going to talk about organizing an Ask a Lawyer session. My name is Elizabeth Nowakowski. I'm at Bristol Community College in southeastern Massachusetts. And I want to share with you my experience of how this program started, how it evolved, where are we today, and just why offer it, and just sort of lesson learned, and how it could be many different things depending what your need is and what you're trying to accomplish with it. So sort of food for thought, if nothing else, and just the way it even came around, it's just interesting. So anyway, let's just get started. So what is it? Really, when I think of the program, or it's not even a program, it's sort of a, let's call it a program, but it is really, like I call it, legal triage. We very wary about calling it legal advice. We are trying to stay away from that because of the legal issues, ethical issues. There's no really client formal relationship being formed, but I'll get to that in a second. So we are trying to think of it as legal triage, where people come in, meet with an attorney for 15 minutes, and they just have a general question, right? I have this situation, where do I go with this, right? So if it's a family law, like I have this, this child custody situation, like what am I supposed to do with it? Do I have any chances? Like where do I go? And the lawyer will just give them a general advice. I had one situation where a student come in and talk to the lawyer about tripping on a campground, and they thought they had a case, whether there's a potential case there. So it's like really kind of, people don't know what to do in certain situations or where to go. So I call it like a legal triage, where we can at least say, hey, you really need a lawyer for this. This one, you should go to these places, but it's really related with a lot of it is with the anxiety that people often feel about the legal profession, and I'll talk about it in a second. So basically, it's legal triage to help individuals in your college community deal with issues, whatever the legal issues they have or they think they may have, because sometimes may not even be a legal issue. It's a one-on-one meeting, so sort of there is this I don't think on privacy, whether it's in a Zoom or in an in-person setting. I try to call it, legal consultation, if nothing else, and usually we keep it to 15 minutes length. Of course, if there's no other person, they can go over and all that, but that's what we do. That, the program, or this has all evolved. During COVID, it used to be offered in person, and I'll go in all the logistics ad nauseum in a few slides. We used to offer it in person, but during COVID, we moved online, and we stayed online. We have not really thought about moving it back in person, but now that Massachusetts is offering free community college, we have more students on campus. I think that's something that I will consider for next semester or the spring semester, and see how it goes. And it all depends it all depends on attorneys' availability, which I'll address as well. We have streamlined the process over the years, obviously, with the technology and the tools that became available to us during the COVID time. And it became a little easier to manage, but there are still challenges. So why would you want to even do such a program? It is a very small tool, and I will say that sometimes it does feel like it's a lot of work for fairly small impact. But what is a small impact? It's to be discussed. If we can only see 8 students or 8 individuals, because it's open to everyone in the college community, meaning staff, faculty, and so on. Yes, it's only 8 students, but sometimes that 1 or 2 individuals, but you don't know what kind of impact we're having among those 8 individuals. So I don't think we should just be looking at numbers, because it may be a big deal to someone. It could be life-changing. So we do it because it is a small tool in the access to justice, within the access to justice challenges that we're seeing everywhere. And I think that's the least sort of we can do. It definitely helps with one of the barriers that students have when you think of all the housing issues, the things that keep students at night. It all contributes to retention and the fact and the success of our students. So, if we can help one of our students say, yes, your landlord can or cannot do that, and these are your rights, or you should go and talk to this person or that person, or you can do that, even if we're not necessarily um, giving them the information in terms of like, oh yeah, I'm going to prepare the notice to quit for you, but we can point them in the right direction, explain what the rights are in the 15 minutes. It can really make a huge difference. And they will continue to, hopefully stay at the college and so on. So, one of the things that I mentioned is that fear. We have recognized that a lot of people are very intimidated by the legal industry. We live and breathe it. It's obvious to us. I don't think we're intimidated. We all know each other. We love each other. We love the law. But when you think of someone who is dealing with a legal issue, a lot of people in the area living where, in a certain demographic areas, and they've never even met an attorney, for them to go and make that call to even meet with a lawyer, it's anxiety provoking. And the idea was, can we bring the law to them to at least let them sort of figure out what the next steps are, and send them to whatever the free legal services are or affordable legal services are in the area, or send them to the websites which can explain further what the rights are, empower them. But at least we bring the law to them a little, or the legal services to them in that small little way where it can be a little less intimidating. Because based on my discussion, even in my classes, a lot of students are feeling that kind of anxiety about meeting an attorney and making that phone call, and they just don't know what to expect. So that was also behind all of this. Another fringe benefit, I would say, of all of this is that it raises awareness of your program at the college. So that was not necessarily, I don't remember if it was definitely not the initial intent, but it ended up being an amazing way for people at the college to learn about the program. Because as I was marketing or promoting the meetings with the lawyer, people who were not necessarily needing that service at the time were made aware that such service exists, and my name and the program was associated with it. So when later on things would come up with students advising or anyone else, they would always come to me for legal advice, or I could point them in the direction of legal services. But they also were aware of the program itself. So that's another way that sort of helped the program a little. And because we've been offering it on and off, since 2018, it's definitely helped not only the college, but also the program. So how did it start? So we are lucky in my community to have a public law school. University of Massachusetts Law School, School of Law. They have few years back, maybe 2015 or 14, created a nonprofit incubator. There are only a bunch of them across the country. I don't know, maybe 10, 14, a handful overall, called Justice Bridge. So it's a separate entity, but affiliated with the law school, which is an incubator for new lawyers. So when a lawyer graduates from law school and they want to pursue public interest, or not necessarily public interest, but they want to get into a private practice, but they feel they're not necessarily equipped for it, they can affiliate themselves with Justice Bridge. They still have to incorporate and create their own practice. They pay, but they can use their office by paying a fee to Justice Bridge on monthly basis. They can get an office space at Justice Bridge. They have free Lexis and Westlaw, bunch of MCLE, kind of all the sort of the support system. And on top of it, they have access to over 80 mentors who are local judges and retired attorneys in the area from all areas of law. So often these attorneys stay in that setup for number of years, and then they go on and sort of go really on their own. By joining Justice Bridge, the only thing that is asked of the attorneys is that they commit to charge affordable legal rate, provide legal compensation or to individuals who may be priced out of the legal services otherwise. The middle class that is too poor to afford the legal services, but they make too much to qualify for free. So that's the only concession or sort of the agreement is. So anyway, I met with the executive director of Justice Bridge back in like 2018, 17, just to see how we can collaborate and chat and, just introduce myself. But from that discussion, we started talking about, and this project, that's how it started. We started talking about paralegals getting involved. So interestingly enough, the reason it started is because we wanted to see how paralegal students get partner with the lawyers. And that's how it happened. So actually, we ended up not involving the paralegals. It was really hard to fit the paralegals in the process, but this project took off nevertheless without the paralegals getting involved. It just was really hard to have them be part of those conversations that were confidential in nature, and there were just too many risks with it being their colleagues, their friends, their instructor. It just, we didn't want to go there, so we let that go. But we tried, and that was the impetus to starting all of this, ironically. And as I mentioned, initially it was in person, and the idea was, you know what, Elizabeth, why won't we find a lawyer from Justice Bridge that can come to Bristol and sit there and provide these, this legal, let's call it legal advice, or for people who are going to come in and have interest in learning how, how their issues can be solved without it being a formal, without forming a formal attorney-client relationship. So that's how it started. So at the macro level, actually, let me stop. Are there any questions right now before I keep going? Okay. So at the macro level, I literally wanted this to be a playbook, like how do you start it versus just talking about the benefits, because everybody knows, I sort of went over the benefits, we could stop there, but I really want to tell you what it takes to get it done as I have it. There are probably different ways to streamline it and make it better. And I have to be honest, because of there were some, I didn't have time to work on it this semester, so the program was stopped. But I know when I get back to it in the fall, I'm sure it's going to be streamlined and there will be more efficiencies, even from what I have done to date. But so the first thing, you need to find a partner, right? Unless you have a lawyer, all of this, the following pages make no sense. You need an attorney who's going to commit to 2 hours of at any time. So I really make it about finding the time that works for me and the lawyer. No other time, because it's not in person anymore. We moved to doing it virtually. It's really just what 2 hours work with you. And I usually make it as far as asking the lawyer, just tell me what works for you. I'm going to see if it works with me, instead of giving them times, because the lawyers have been challenging. That's the biggest challenge. And I have on the challenges pages, that's the biggest challenge. And it's been harder and harder to find a partner, even with that partnership that we have. So I think the less restrictions you have, the easier it's going to be to find someone. I have to be very honest that, and I might as well talk about the challenge now. The challenge that I found is aligning the marketing and promotion of those sessions with responsiveness of the lawyers. So at my college, I need to submit stuff like week and a half or 2 weeks before, if I want it published in the newsletter for the faculty and staff, and another one for the students. So there is all this planning, which I need like at least 2-3 weeks timeline. And sometimes the attorneys just don't know how the schedule looks like. Sometimes they can only commit to something a week in advance. So that has been a challenge in the past, finding someone who can actually commit ahead of time. And I'm not sure how it's going to go next semester. We're going to try again, but lawyers' time is very valuable. So I'm usually trying to be very flexible. But you just need to align it and sort of know that by certain day, like for us, it's Thursday, submitting for next week's newsletters. which are on Tuesday. So if I wanted to have an Ask a Lawyer on a Thursday that week, that would be a lot of work for me, assuming that people would even see it. So there is just, in 2 weeks in advance, I think it's a fair time to expect someone to commit. So if you can commit someone 2 weeks in advance, you should have enough time to do it. Anyway, and then if you do it in person, you just need some space. If you want to give those individual privacy, you also want a place where you or someone that's going to oversee this and check in people. It's only 8 people, but still you want to manage the process. So if you're going to do it in someone's office, that's fine, but someone needs to be outside of that office, waiting for the next person to come in and check them off. So you want to have an extra chair or something like that. So something to keep in mind on the setup. Because you do want to have that privacy. And then once again, I already spoke about marketing. Every school is different and how you market this. If you are really, really in-person, marketing with flyers should be enough. And I think that's something I would probably do next semester, now that more students are on campus. Even if the program were to be online, I would do much more in-person, kind of in cafeteria promotion, and see if that works. So to get really, really detailed, like I said, choose the date first and definitely get on their calendar right away. And then you want to create the form. So once, the way you promote it, I promoted it, I'm sorry, is I created a flyer and then, or email or whatever it is, whatever you're going to promote the session. And then I create a form, which I'll share with you. The link is here and the QR code is to it as well, with a QR code on it, right? So people can just click on it and register for the session. The intent of the session is to gather the information, and this has evolved as well. I learned on my mistakes. I would get people would sign up, let's put it this way, people would sign up, initially when I started it, they would just sign up, and I would not ask them what area of law they were looking for. And there was a misalignment with an attorney that showed up, right? So I would have a family law attorney coming, and there was like immigration law and housing law. And it took me a couple of sessions to realize that something needs to change, because that's just not an efficient way for anyone to do this. So the new form, which if I click here, you should be able to see it. It just basically, tells you what the session is, and then you want the name, you want the person's college email address. I do not accept personal email addresses. I want their phone, because I want to be able, as I'll mention later, follow up with them. And then I list all the areas of law, because that's how I'm going to weed them out. And if I have a family law attorney coming, who can also maybe field some housing questions or maybe a little of criminal law, I'll make sure that everybody else is not going to be picked for this session. So that's how I do it. So I say, what is it that you have an issue with? And then, because sometimes, you can get 2 lawyers. I don't know. I mean, if depending on the size of the school, you can tweak it in different ways, right? And I'll share also another experiment, which I did. Then I take the 2-hour session and I literally break it up into 15 minutes increments. And I say, please tell me what time works for you. So the person indicates what time frame works. And then I'll just put it all in a spreadsheet. And it is a little detail oriented, so it is a little time consuming. But if I found that if I do it pretty quickly, as they come in, it's not that bad, because I do it on first come basis. So if a person comes in and I have a family law attorney and they want family law and they want the 2:00 slot, I just literally put them on my schedule for 2:00. That's where they're going, and I don't look back. That slot is taken. So if the next person is the same and the only thing you can do 2, I just say, I'm sorry, it's just not available, that slot, and I just move on. So if I do it as the forms come in, it's less overwhelming. If I wait until all of them are there, then it just gets a little crazy. And sometimes I try to accommodate everyone, so I try to move people around, and then I send that email, which I'll talk about. So it's very simple. And that's it. I only ask them the basic info, who they are, I don't ask them about the affiliation, like whether they're student staff. As long as they have the college email address, that's enough for me. And that's it. So they submit that, and then as I mentioned, once whatever flyer I have, I will share it with marketing. I'll put it on the monitors, and once whatever system you have at your college to spread the news, just utilize it. I try not to make it more work. There are only 8 slots, so I never have problem. I usually don't have issues finding people to come in, but people often don't show up either, so which is a shame. And I set up a process to try to remedy that. And so I do marketing, but I don't go unless I really don't have people responding to the survey. That's I try to push it out to the our admins, to the academic areas, ask it to send it to faculty and staff, and I really go the extra. But usually just putting in the student newsletter and the faculty area, just it's the easy ones usually works, and I don't have to worry about it. So I mentioned the marketing. Then I said, I just create a spreadsheet. I don't have a picture, but you can just imagine just a very basic Excel spreadsheet mimicking the 15-minute time slots, and you put the names, and I do put their phone numbers and the email address, so I don't have to go back to the form. So I just quickly, and if you use, I mean, sometimes I use it by you getting the report from the survey. But sometimes I like to do it manually just so I have more control over it, whatever works. But that would be that's usually I live by that spreadsheet, and I just say that person can do anytime. So then I can wait until I fill all the slots. I'm like, all right, maybe I can move that person somewhere else and squeeze in someone else. Then once I set up my 8 people, I email them individually. Or sometimes I email them one at a time. I say, hey, you got a 2 o'clock slot. Can you please confirm that this still works for you? I do not send them a Zoom link unless they reply to me, because often they don't check emails, and if they don't confirm, I tell them I need to hear from you within whatever hours, 24 hours, 48 hours. Like I give them a time frame, and I say if I don't hear from you, your spot will go to someone else, because there are people who really want certain slots, and then once I hear from them, I'll send them the Zoom link and say see you then. 2 days before, I confirm it with the lawyer just to make sure. And the day before, I just text all 8 people and I say, hey, just confirming your appointment, because I know they don't check email. So I'll just confirm via text and say, I hope to see you there. If you have any issues, please let me know, because I've had situations where I would email, people would say, oh, something came up, I can't make it. I would go to my original list and see if I can grab someone else off the wait list. And I just don't want to waste the attorney's time, and I want to make sure everyone gets the benefit of the session. Oh, the usual log in earlier, and then I usually just sit in a waiting room and just sort of do my thing. People come in, I'll wait, I'll let them in. When the other person leaves, I'll send them to the lawyers, I set up a separate breakout room for the attorney, and I just keep sending the individuals there. And during if it is in person, you can imagine the process is very similar. And these are some of so we started, this is the evolution. On the left, you will see the original, very, the flyer without even a picture. That was, I think, one of my first flyers that I did. This is like 2018. And this is what we used, free session. You want to highlight the free legal issue, I try to stay from the legal advice, because nobody, and we can talk about the agreements and all that stuff, but I only had one attorney who, I think he made the folks sign something, but that was between them and whatever was happening in the breakout room. Most of them are comfortable with just triaging and not going, because they're not going really deep into the details. They're just saying that's usually what would happen in such situation. And they all obviously have malpractice, so insurance. But anyway, so we try to stay with the, legal consultation. I try to, the taglines, do you have a question about a legal issue? I'm trying to be very kind of not like, do you need legal advice? Try not to go there as much. Then I started, I just put some images and threw Ask a Lawyer on that. This is my, when I put it on Facebook on the top right, promoting it. And once again, you can promote it on Facebook, on LinkedIn if you really want to. But once again, people have to be from Bristol in order to, from the college to really take advantage of it. But it's another way you can actually promote your program if you really want to. The one in the middle, the blue one, it was an experiment. I think it was right around COVID. I don't remember, it was 2000. I think it was I think it was 20 or 21. I don't remember. I wanted to do a law week really bad. And I came up with the idea, which I think in theory was great. But I actually went through the trouble of creating, I don't know how many, like 5 different breakout room sessions depending on the subject, and I sent it to community. So we had to ask a lawyer for family law, ask a lawyer for immigration, ask for, I think, estate planning. I don't remember all of them. It's been a while. And the idea was that people from the community could sign up for all of those. And I didn't do well on the marketing part. I didn't give enough time to promote it. So it wasn't a success. But only I had the people, I had the lawyers. But I just, because it was me, myself, and I, which is one of the challenges, I just didn't get to do the right marketing. I didn't give myself enough time. I didn't have a good marketing plan for the for the depth and breadth of promotion that this program required, because that was for the outside of Bristol community. This was beyond, and it just was. I think the concept works, but it was still too much work for one person. I think conceptually, great way to do a law week, but you need more people than just me. I ended up getting folks to help me manage certain sessions, which people actually did sign up for, but it was not, there weren't as many people as I was hoping to have. And so the challenges, some of them I already discussed. The time commitment, especially when you start up, it's once because I've done it so many times, it's not really, it is a time commitment. One, to find an attorney, which obviously if you have one that's done, that's good. Just dealing with the, just finding the individuals and going through the spreadsheet, it is still a little time consuming. It doesn't have to take a lot of time, but it could, depending on what the, who the individuals are and how well they lined up. So if you're trying to really make sure you fill all the slots, it could be, it just takes time. It's not hard. We've done hard, but it just, with everything else we do, it is a little time consuming. And then you have that extra 2 hours that you have to spend sitting there. I always say I'm going to multitask. I end up talking either to the students, whoever they are, individuals. Sometimes they're my colleagues or people I know at the college, and I talk about whatever. Or sometimes when nobody's showing up, you're talking to the lawyer. So I usually, my 2 hours are never productive, other than having enjoying the conversations I have, but not in where you can sort of multitask and do work on the side. So you have to commit to those 2 hours being sort of gone. Finding a lawyer, as I mentioned, has always been the biggest challenge. So I usually don't even limit on what the issue is. I just say any attorney would be fine, as long as, they're not very, like, I don't need a patent lawyer. But most of them, if it's a family law, obviously that's amazing. And I usually have most lawyers can answer basic, other questions, some of the basic, field some of the basic questions. So I'll take pretty much anyone who's gonna volunteer, and then I'll just cater the people who come for the consultation to that person's expertise. mentioned the marketing planning in advance is sort of the managing the attorney's availability and giving myself enough time to market it. It hasn't been as big of a deal, but it's something to keep in mind. Students not showing up, or I kept student, but usually it's the students who are not showing up. The other people from the college usually do come. It's that's why I started following up in the afternoon or evening before. I would send a quick message asking to confirm, asking them specifically to confirm that they're coming. And if they're not responding, that's usually not a bad sign. It's not a good sign. So I usually try to have a plan B if I have time to deal with it. Sometimes you just can't, and you say it is what it is. Yeah, not enough spots for everyone. Sometimes it goes either way. Sometimes people don't show up, and sometimes you just get so many responses. And I expect now that we're coming out of the, we have so many more students with the free college. I expect that when I hold it in the fall, we're gonna have a really high response rate. So it's gonna be the opposite. Yeah, the biggest, one of the things that I would do if, and I'm hoping to try to do is to engage someone to help you, whether it's with the logistics in dealing with with the results of the intake form or whatever, maybe managing, even sitting at the Zoom for 2 hours, because that's easy, whether it's an admin, depending if you can do, if it's a union, you may have some union issues if it's not work related. Work study, law club member, someone you trust, who can handle themselves, with professionalism and so on. That would make a huge difference. Someone who's very engaged and passionate about this. Preparing a link or handout of free legal advice. So that was really helpful to have a link. If it's in person, you can just give them a QR code or something. Just something that shows where they can go for legal advice. We send them obviously to Justice Bridge, the incubator I mentioned, because they can get affordable legal advice, obviously, to the free legal services around the area that we have. So we have standard options that we can refer them to, and just having it handy. So instead of just throwing names, you can just say, hey, do you have your phone? Just scan this code. I think that's a good one. I was really excited when this started because this was replicated by a bunch of colleges in the area. There was a large university in the area, because Justice Bridge works with other institutions on other projects, and they took our model and they went to UMass Dartmouth, which is big state university, and they replicated it based on our model in person. But not as structured. So people, actually the lawyers who went there, they said, oh yeah, this is so much better organized, because I go there, they just like advertise it, come, and like people don't even show up. So I think, with a little, TLC, you can make sure that the attorney does not feel that they're wasting their time. I'm sure they can always find something to work on, even when they're waiting. But it's, I think there's always some, there are ways to improve it. There are more efficiencies. I'd love to offer more spots. There was a time where I got really ambitious, and you'd appreciate it. I tried to do it. I said, I'm going to do it every month. How do you think that worked out? So that I think I did it twice during the semester, and that was already a lot. So if you were to ask me how often do I do it, I would say I try to do it once a semester, twice if I can. But you know how our semesters go. We start in September, we get overwhelmed, and by the time it's October, if I can squeeze one by the end of October, before that, it's like end of the semester and nobody's going to pay attention. So it's and we go back to the first one. If you have to continue to look for a lawyer to commit to, if I had a lawyer who could say, I'll be there on October 5th and I'll be there on November 30th, whatever, right? That would be amazing. If I could find an attorney that can commit to 2 dates a semester, my life would be so much easier, and I could do 2 or 3 a semester, because I could put processes around it. But looking for an attorney is the biggest challenge. And I think that's all I have. So I'm going to stop sharing, and take questions. Someone raised their hand, so
Elizabeth
please.
and Chris. I
Hi.
I think this is a great idea, and I tried it last semester, and maybe um one of the things I found, I did not have the challenge of the attorney piece because I ended up making an agreement with a firm, and they had many attorneys. So we just set a time and a day, and they provided me volunteer attorneys. So they were like, they could rotate them amongst their their different attorneys, and so they've been able to do that. And so the challenge wasn't that. What my challenge was getting um, marketing and getting people to come, because you do want to make it worthwhile, as you said, for the attorneys. And I hated with like having a session and like there was nobody who signs up. And we offered it to community as well as staff and students. So anybody could come, but I think that it's picking up a bit now that they know that we have it, and it's become like they think it's a thing, so they're looking for it. But the first one, like, I had more attorneys there than I had, and paralegals than I had people, which was just kind of disappointing. But that was
And so you do it in person, Chris?
I do. We do it because we have a couple of different campuses. So we do have a campus that's probably in an area which we feel as though would be more of a financial income base where that people would need these services. So we usually do it at that facility. Um, and that way, if anybody in that community, could easily get to the college to do it. Um, it's just that, I always struggle with marketing for my school and getting any events marketed. And this is just another example of it. But I think the concept is great. And actually, I get the paralegal students involved by doing all that work that you didn't want to, like, that we don't have time to do, which is they actually call the clients and confirm their appointment. Like they register with that form, like the form you're using. That's like a registration form, and they'll use that information and they'll email or call them and get the information from them, kind of like an intake. So they get experience doing that, and then they get experience being with the attorneys when the situation um, at the actual day when they talk to them.
That's a great idea. I wonder if I could also use one of the students in the internship class, so the more senior ones. And that's actually I was hesitant to do that, but now that you mentioned it, I think that seems like an obvious solution. And do you allow them to just use their own email address at school to communicate it, or because another thing that at one point I did before I had the form, which was extremely overwhelming because I had everyone just email me with a request to have an appointment. So you can imagine how that looked like. This is like 2018. I learned that lesson really quickly because so then instead of going to the form, I asked my IT to create a separate inbox that's
That's what I
called
did.
a lawyer at Bristol. So that was, but then I had to remember to check it. So that was annoying. So then now we're just using the form. But my question is, Chris, do they just use their individual emails at the student to communicate with the individuals?
No, it's from a legal studies at Buck Study to You inbox. So all the messages, like, that's the email we have on the flyer. So all the messages go in there. They go in, they check in there, and then they email from there. So they all have access to that box, and so they see those. So like they have different days to check it, or like they might have a couple of days in a row where they have to check it, and anybody who said they were coming and those things, they have to contact them. And
That's
so they
great.
can get into that and they can see it. Um, the other issue that I'm just finding lately is just that we've been coming up with these good ideas where I think that they get experience, but none of the students, and I know you're a community college too, none of the students want to do anything outside of the college because they already have work and families and whatever else. Not that everybody doesn't have that, but it seems to be a community college thing where they don't want to do any outside like extracurricular activities. So we get these good concepts and these good ideas, but they don't really participate because they're like, oh, I've got enough to do. So
No, I'm gonna give it a try. I'm gonna see if I can make it. I mean, it could be used as part of the internship hours too for some students who are really struggling with finding remote internship, even for like few hours, maybe. But it's interesting, Chris, that you are struggling with the marketing though. I mean, QR code is a great way if you're not using it already. I'm sure but just continue to spread the word internally, because folks internally, your college internally will get the word out. So I would not even focus on a community, because what happened, I would have people come in with their siblings to ask questions, because their siblings couldn't come because they don't have a Bristol college email, but they would bring it. So I would just pretend like I didn't care, right? As long as people get advice, it's fine. But they would come with people sometimes, and it's okay because we're here to help. We just wanted to limit it for now. We're not there where we are trying to open it to the whole community. I'm a little afraid of that, especially because we have via Zoom. So that would be too many. We just don't have enough space. Any other questions or comments? Are you guys doing any access to justice, legal advice kind of programming at your school? Okay.
Nothing.
Nothing. It's a lot of work. It is time consuming. And I'm not gonna say it's not. It really, and it was nerve wracking so many times, especially earlier when I didn't have all these processes in place to actually make sure people show up and remind them. But I think you're right. Once I get students to do it, we could probably even make it happen more than that once we have the lawyers. And I probably, now that this has been very interesting to sort of reflect on as I was doing the presentation. I've always focused on, working with Justice Bridge, and the executive director would prefer that we keep it with Justice Bridge, but there's nothing to stop me from extending it to other attorneys. If I can't get the partners' attorneys, I can just get a lawyer. Because we are via Zoom, I can just get them from anywhere in the state. At the end of the day, Massachusetts law is Massachusetts law. So
Elizabeth, I just wanted to say that I actually used this idea of Ask a Lawyer. It went really well.
excellent.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
using it? Are you offering it regularly, or was it just like a one-off?
No, I just started it. I did it in spring, and I'm going to continue to do it now. It's a great way to be in front of the college community. And your students get to know the program, even students that are in different programs.
Exactly.
Come, and it truly is. We had great success with it. And I think one of the benefit I do have is that I have a family advocacy center. So I have a coordinator for it who is here for me. And I can sort of ride on his shoulder and say, I need help with it. So be there that day with me or without me. And it worked. It worked really. And I also, in that center, I had a student intern. So between the two of them, in that one day, you can't advise everybody, but you have slots, and then anybody else, they fill in an intake form and you communicate with them later.
That's
So,
great. So you do it in person as well?
You
do it in person as well?
Yeah. No, I wanted to tell you, thank you. It went really well.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I'm, I love this program. I think it's great. I wish we could have a bigger impact. It's not gonna, you know, sort of remove the access to justice barriers, but I do believe that it will make a difference a little in someone's
Mhm.
life, that it makes a difference, and people, if someone knows, they will be able to tell others and share whatever they've learned, because it's going to impact others. So there is a trickle effect, and we have to try to make a difference wherever we can, even if it's baby steps. So we'll see.
Yeah,
But
no, so many of the people coming, as you pointed out, is not just our students. They were walking with family members, and that's all good. You are not giving them legal advice. You're showing them the pathway to and connecting them. The other thing I do, we go above and beyond that and say we have resources within the community that we try to connect them with. So if not us, we'll get you this far, and beyond that, either you go and help yourself because we've helped you prep the documents and what have you. And beyond that, here are some other lawyers or organizations that you can reach out to. So
exactly.
every little bit helps. It's baby steps, as you said. So thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. And it's, with immigration law coming up being a big issue, I mean, it's just hard to find an immigration lawyer to start with. So, finding one to come in, I'd love to bring one and do it via Zoom, which would be safe. But I think the chances of me finding an attorney who's going to donate 2 hours of their time are really slim at this point, where we are. But that's a huge need right now in the community. But I think every single one of ours. But I will, yeah, I am planning to do at least 2 next semester. I'm gonna try to do in person and via Zoom, and see how that takes off. If any one of you has any efficiency ideas, I love that you are employing or engaging students, and I'm gonna try to do that next semester. Our program has grown in numbers because of the free college, so I think I can interview some, make it a competitive process, and have them interview for it. And maybe they may even have work study. Maybe they can qualify for that and get paid. So. Great idea. Thank you.
We've done one just related to expungement, so not generalized, but just for that limited purpose, and partnered with the law school because they have a clinic that does them as well. So the law students came over to the community college, and you're right, the marketing piece, like how far in advance do I have to do that in order to get people to come, was definitely a barrier that I did not think through fully, but we've been able to do it a few times now, and it's worked out really nicely. But I'd love to expand to what you're talking about doing, but with the narrow focus, I've had all the help I needed. So that's been nice.
I think once it is overwhelming if you do it on your own. To do it right, it is not hard, right? A lot of it, what we do is not hard. It's just time consuming, and there's only 24 hours in a day. And it's another thing that, we know our students can do it, and we're doing it, and we don't have time. It's distracting, us from other things, and it goes into little pieces. Now I have to do this, and then it just so it ends up being a lot of work, or a lot of headspace, right? That's taken away by it, where I love the idea of getting students involved, and I think I'm going to have to do it next fall, and hopefully I can offer more of it next semester, as long as I find the lawyers. So once hopefully I'll find folks who are willing to come, because it is, some of them, I had one initially who actually got a client out of it, and that's not the purpose, but we all know that they wouldn't mind getting a client out of it. And it happened where one of them did, and they were very happy about it, but that's not the purpose. And they
Yeah,
all,
but I don't mind telling I did that with my faculty, my adjunct faculty, and said, give us some time here. And if there is a client, if somebody turns into a client, they're yours.
Yeah.
Why would I mind? In fact, it's a win-win. So it's an incentive for people to give the 2 hours that is precious for everybody. And we know how much time, how much minutia there is to be done for these events. One thing I find is that there's so much, and my head spins in trying to do everything. And then finally I get to the point where I say, cannot do everything. You know, if you're doing 4 events well all throughout the year and you're repeating them, that's good. Unless it gets to the point where my college, which is unlikely, like Chris said, you know, we're all small community colleges, there's not going to be an assistant director, or there's not possibly going to be a full-time AA for that matter. Unless that happens, I'm staying limited with what I can do and not do everything, just can't. But it is tempting though. You hear all these and you think, oh, you know, I can be superwoman. Well, not really.
Only for so long, right? And then we
Yes.
crash and burn. My provost just said that to me the other day. I said something about thrive on like the busyness, and she's like, you can only do that for so long, and then you crash and burn.
Yes, amen to that, as they say. I couldn't agree more. But I think with the right systems in place, this could be offered more than once a semester, but only if we're not doing the work. Because the reason I couldn't do it is because I was doing everything from A to Z, including sitting in those sessions, which is silly. When I look back, it's like, this is ridiculous. I mean, I could be a backup. I still probably wouldn't book time for that time, but just in case, there's something happened, the student doesn't show up or something, but I should not have to sit there for 2 hours monitoring Zoom. That's probably not the best way for me to spend the time, other than maybe showing up, saying hello to the lawyer, thanking them, and then handing them off to a student who can network and chat with the lawyer, which would be really, really good for them and beneficial to because many of them have not had that opportunity. So
Maybe Elizabeth, you could look for one of your graduates too. Like maybe you might have a graduate that's working as a paralegal, and maybe the attorney they work for would do it, and then you might be able to have like a
great idea.
That's a great idea too. Ask the alumni to see if they can spare some time, especially if I do it during lunchtime. So that's worth pursuing too. But thank you so much for joining me today. The program is very dear to my heart because I started early after I started at the college. So I'm looking forward to bringing it back because, like I said, we're on a hiatus this semester, but hopefully next semester we can bring it with a force. Thank you so much for spending your lunch break with me and all of us. It's always wonderful seeing everyone. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you soon in a couple of months, right? On another one. I don't know, Tracy, do you remember who's next in 3 months?
probably me, which is probably why I don't remember. But I'm not sure. I'm trying to think where we're at. I don't remember if I follow you. I can't remember.
Because I skipped December because mine was during December last time. So I don't know if you were.
I was February.
Oh yeah, so you're next. Well, have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you so much, and see you soon.
You guys.
Bye.